I have the most embarrassing high school story. So it was grade 9, and I had this huge crush on this girl. She was one of those shy, quiet, reserved girls, but she was also part of the popular squad for some reason, which kind of confused me. But anyways, she was in one of my classes, and I sat pretty close to her, but I never talked to her because, again, I was shy, I was nervous, I was not confident, and I didn't really know how to talk to girls. But I decided that enough is enough. I was going to go up and talk to her the next day. When I see her next day, I was going to go up and talk to her. So before that day came, I did some research. I went onto YouTube and I searched how to talk to your crush. And a bunch of videos showed up. And I watched a few of them. They were pretty good. And I memorized a bunch of lines that I was going to use on her the next time I saw her. And I knew that once I delivered these lines, she was going to be so impressed. She was going to like me back as well. And all those fake imaginary scenarios I had of us getting married and getting a relationship and holding hands and stuff, they were going to come true. So next day came and I commanded my legs to go up to her. And I was super close, but then I just turned back and walked away. And she probably saw me. She thought I was a weirdo or something. But that happened for 2 more months. One day, I had enough. Like, enough is enough. I was going to go up and talk to her. I was tired of being the guy who was looking at her from a distance and imagining fake scenarios. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I have my lines memorized. I'm going to go up and talk to her. And next day came and I started kicking her chair for some reason. And she thought I was very annoying. But we eventually started a conversation. And I was like, okay, this is my chance. I'm going to use my lines on her. She's going to be so impressed. She's going to like me back. And we're going to live happily ever after. As soon as I was about to drop my lines, my mind went completely blank. I totally forgot everything that I learned, I completely forgot. And I just stared at her like an idiot. I started mumbling a few words here and there, and then the conversation eventually ended, and she thought I was a complete weirdo. But long story short, we did end up dating, just to give you guys a spoiler, but that's another story. But the same thing happened to me in class as well. The teacher was writing something on the board, and I told myself that I don't need to take notes because I will remember it. And I did for 20 minutes. But as soon as I got home, I completely forgot everything that I learned. Has that ever happened to you? Where you're reading a book or you're trying to focus in class and you're learning a bunch of stuff. But as soon as you try to remember what you learned, your mind just goes blank. And you feel like you didn't learn anything at all because you can't remember anything. Why does that happen? Does that not piss you off? Because you're spending all this time trying to learn something. You're spending hours reading a book or trying to study or doing this or doing that. And by the end of it, you can't remember a single thing that you learned. Not only did you just waste hours of your time, hours of your life, but it was also pretty pointless. Like, you couldn't even learn anything that you wanted to learn. You probably watched a few YouTube videos on how to get better at speaking or how to start a business or how to make money or how to talk to girls or whatever. And then when it came to taking action, you completely forgot what you learned. So what was even the point? How valuable would it be if you remembered every single thing that you learned? Because not only will you not have an embarrassing moment like me, like the one that I had with my crush, but you would also remember everything that you learned in terms of making money or in terms of talking to people, making new friends, or just basically getting a better grade in school, because whatever you're learning in class, you're actually remembering, unlike all the other kids who are just forgetting about it 20 minutes from then. How valuable would it be when every other person has to spend 2 hours on the same thing that only takes you 20 minutes because you're actually remembering what you learn? I came up with a tool that helps me remember every single thing that I learned, and I've been using it religiously. But before I get into that, scroll down and click on the subscribe button to help grow this channel and also push my message to more ambitious young men so that they can also find value just like you are. And eventually it's going to be a win-win situation because they're finding value and I'm also growing my channel. So scroll down and click on the subscribe button. With that being said, before I share the tool that helps me remember everything that I learned, the first thing you need to do is make sure you have good, solid focus. Because if you're just reading the same line for 10 minutes because you can't focus on what you're reading or what you're learning, then there's no point in remembering what you learned because you're not even going to learn anything. So the first thing is to make sure you always have good focus. And the way you do that is by meditating. So you should be meditating 10 minutes every single day, non-negotiable. If you are a beginner, if you want to improve your life, if you want to get better at school, if you want to get better at university, talking to people, whatever, start meditating. It's going to help you with focus. It's going to help you with being more present. And it's a complete non-negotiable if you want to get better in life. So start meditating. The tool that I use to make sure that I remember everything that I learn is something that I call the reading tracker. And I'm going to share my screen right now and I'm going to show you how it works. Okay, so this is what the reading tracker looks like. So again, it's called the reading tracker. And before I get started, I just want to give credits to Charlie Morgan because that's the person that I got this from. He's the one who shared it with me and a bunch of other people. And I basically made a few iterations of my own, but this is basically what I've been using to make sure I remember every single thing that I learn. This is what the dashboard looks like, and then we have monthly, like the month for monthly thing, whatever. But yeah, in the dashboard, there's the month over here, the days number of days you read, the number of pages you read, the number of minutes you read, your focus percentage, and the number of books you read each month. So we can basically go ahead and track how many books you're reading every single month. So if on January you only read like one book, then you can basically make sure that the next month you're increasing the number, you're reading at least 2 books or 3 books or whatever. But this is basically just to track how many books you're reading, how many minutes you're reading every single week, every single month, and stuff like that. Whatever book you're reading, you're gonna basically write down the name over here and the name of the author and when you started the book, when you finished that book. But the magic happens when you go into each of the months. So this is my reading tracker from December. Over here, you write down the date when you first started reading the book. You write in the name, number of pages you read, number of minutes spent, focus percentage. But the best part is the key takeaways part. Whenever you're reading, once you're done your reading, I want you to open your reading tracker and write down the key takeaways in your own words. This is going to make sure that you're not reading just for the sake of reading. You're actually trying to learn what you're reading, like learn from what you're reading. So when you read something and you realize that you don't know what to write in the key takeaways part, then you know that you haven't really learned anything. So if you read 20 pages and it comes to writing the key takeaways part and your mind goes blank, just know that you haven't learned a single thing and you don't remember anything at all. So go ahead, read it again, and once you've actually properly read whatever you were reading, write the key takeaways in your own words. What this is going to do is this is going to make sure that you actually understood what you're learning. And if you understand it, it's going to be so much easier for you to remember it. But this is not the only thing that you're going to do. Once you write down the key takeaways, you're going to read this first thing in the morning and last thing at night for 7 days. Do that. It sounds difficult. It sounds like a lot of work, but do that. And I promise you, you will never forget anything that you read. You'll never forget anything that you learned. It's going to be etched in your mind forever. And if you want to really solidify your learning, whatever you learn, go implement that in real life. It's going to make sure that it's in your mind forever. You're never going to forget about it. Even if your memory is like wiped away or something, you're not going to forget about it. And I'm going to give you a real life example. So I sucked at talking to people and making new friends. But I watched a YouTube video on how to make more friends and basically how to keep a conversation going. Because I had no idea how to keep a conversation going. I was the most dry speaker. But I watched this YouTube video and I didn't have the reading tracker back then, but I took notes on a piece of paper. And I read that paper first thing in the morning and last thing at night. And once I really solidified my learning from just the paper, I went ahead, got out, and used that learning on other people and basically kept the conversation going. Eventually, every single thing that I learned in that video, it became second nature to me. So now when I go and talk to people, it's just second nature for me to use those tactics to make sure that I can keep a conversation going. Because again, I read it first thing in the morning and last thing at night, which was the key takeaways part. And I also implemented that in real life, which really solidified my learning. So if you want to make sure that you remember every single thing that you learn, use the reading tracker. Whatever you're reading, whatever you're learning, go ahead and write it down in the key takeaways section. And one other thing is the minutes spent and the pages read part. So if you're seeing that you're spending like 2 hours and you're only reading like 10 pages, then you know that you have bad focus. Because it shouldn't take you 2 hours to read only 10 pages. So make sure you're tracking this properly, because it's going to help you get better as well. Because if you're spending 2 hours to read only 10 pages, you're going to know, okay, my focus is the problem. Let me try and focus the next time I read. And then you probably may have read 10 pages in 1 hour or something. That's an improvement. You just saved 1 hour. And eventually you're going to basically save a lot of time. And on top of this, you're also going to be remembering what you learned. And this is going to make sure you go so far ahead of your competition, because while they're going to be spending 2 hours reading 10 pages, not even remembering what they learned, you're going to be spending way less time reading the same number of pages, and you're going to remember every single thing that you learn. Same thing with school. Whatever you're learning in school or university, you're actually going to remember what you learn. So you're not going to have to come back home and basically be lost because you can't remember a single thing that you learned. Same thing with talking to, I don't know, friends or girls. Like you're not gonna have a similar situation like me with my high school crush, because you're actually gonna remember what you say. And same thing with making friends. I also made a video on how to make friends. So if you don't have friends, like and you're lonely loser or something, go and watch that video after this video. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you're properly using the reading tracker, you are going to remember every single thing that you learned. How much time will that save you? You're not going to have to keep reading the same thing over and over and over again because you just can't remember what you learned. You only have to read it once, write down the key takeaways, implement that in real life, and you're never going to forget what you learned. While other people are just going about it the old-fashioned way, where they're just like trying to read and read and read until they memorize it. Not even learning or understanding, just memorizing. So use a reading tracker, remember everything that you learn, and you're going to go so far ahead of your competition. It's not even funny. If you want a copy of the reading tracker, click on the link in the description, which is going to take you to my Instagram. Go ahead and send me a DM asking for the reading tracker, and I will send you a copy of the tracker right away. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, go ahead and drop me a follow as well. I always appreciate the support. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I will see you in the next video. Take care.